I think it's slightly tragic that we have to educate people about the contributions of women, because that in itself is an acknowledgement that we tend to ignore the contributions of women, and we can't do that anymore. I mean, it's just a given. We're human beings. We're on the earth. We're half the population. So our contributions have to be acknowledged, and whatever it takes to do that, I'm down for that. Yeah, I think the physical presence of a museum is so important. The virtual presence of a museum is vital too, because it means that the museum has global reach, right? But the physical presence of a museum is important because so many other populations have a place at the Smithsonian. There are so many areas of interest, and science and art and African American history, and the Smithsonian is kind of a placeholder for our history and our culture. So women belong there. We belong on the mall.
I think about this always in the context of Shondaland. What struck me before I was lucky enough to work there is that Shonda, without making it too didactic, wants everyone to have a seat at the table. And she wants everyone, no matter who you love, no matter what you look like, whatever, to get yourself represented. And women are not represented in history. We've been largely overlooked. I know I thought about that a lot as playing the First Lady. The history of the presidents are all written, but they didn't ever do it alone. And very little is written or taught about the woman behind the man in any forum. So this is crucial. I mean, think about last year in Hidden Figures. Think about what a story that was. And they're just untold. There are a million stories like that need to be revered and passed on, and because it inspires all the girls coming up to know that they are equal and all things are possible, and that it's up to them to contribute to the world. Because it's inordinately legitimizing to have a physical presence. It diminishes an institution, much less a group of people, to only exist online. We are formidable, and our contribution should not be diminished in any way. We deserve that physical structure. It's almost easier to talk about how wonderful Carrie is than to breathe. It was more difficult to try and focus my time to 5 minutes than I love her so much. And the consciousness with which she lives her life, the thoughtful, tireless way she tries to make this world a better place, nothing could please me more than to sing her song from the rafters.
I think it's crucial because when you really look at where we are right now, and you look at how much women have done from the very beginning of time until now, I think it's really fascinating when you think about how it seems like it's only a select few that get celebrated. Like it's a token thing if a woman is celebrated in her achievements for what it is that she does. Hopefully one day it won't even be a discussion about celebrating women. It would be a natural balance that we celebrate everyone and everything. But right now, that's what we need to do, because it doesn't exist enough. And we're seeing this really powerful movement right now of women coming together, realizing that there's a place at the table for all of us, that we can love and support and uplift one another, that there is enough abundance to go around, and with the great meetings of the minds and the hearts, that we can invent and innovate and create and inspire and uphold one another. And so I think it's a really incredible thing when you get a group of women together that are in that headspace, that are just here to love one another and say, yeah, get it. And what about this? And what about this? It's that's what we need right now, because in a way we're leaderless. And so we need to support one another so we can all lead together.
I think it's so important that we celebrate and recognize and honor women who have successfully been able to break through that glass ceiling. Because when you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, not enough women have. And so all of those women, they serve as sources of inspiration for those of us who are still continuing to kind of fight our way up. Right now, everything is kind of getting we're overwhelmed. Our senses are overwhelmed with our devices. And I think by having a physical structure and where people are able to spend time, you know, we don't do that enough. Like spend time really allowing things to resonate and sink in. And so that's one of the main reasons. And just to be able to see extraordinary women, pioneers, gracing the walls of a physical structure, just like all those physical structures that contain images of prominent men in our culture and our history, I think it's a crucial thing to be able to have.
I think it's so important to highlight everyone that is adding value and doing important things in our world. I think there's a lot of focus on what people aren't doing or a lot of things that are fearful and awful, but there are a lot of people adding value, and there are a lot of women who are mothers and business owners and just doing things on all levels, whether they're young kids or teenagers or young adults and older adults, that we need these stories to be expressed so that people can realize what possibilities there are.
Yeah, I think everybody right now is super energized. I think that not only just the States, but I think the world is really energized and really seeing ourselves as global, and I think women have such a huge, important part of that, and I'm raising a daughter. I mean, there's so many reasons why this is important. If for nothing else, then there is no other museum in any nation's capital that has a museum that's dedicated to the achievements of women. That blows my mind.
Well, I am really excited that we're going to have a museum that features women in leading roles. I think it will have a significant impact on our country and on the world because it will change perceptions about women. So often we see women in these supporting roles and we only learn about, what they've done in those roles, but there's really so much more to the story. I know it might sound cliche, but you can't be what you don't see. And so the fact that this museum will show women their full stories, all the contributions that they've made, will inspire people today, but will inspire future generations too.
So if you don't talk about who contributed what, you would think that this world and society and the economy of today was driven and produced solely by men, which is ridiculous. I think it's important to highlight women and their achievements. Women don't tend to cheerlead for themselves. I have to say to start that I'm shocked that there isn't one already, frankly. I think it's incredibly important to have kind of a focal point or a center where people can go, where women and men can go and really see the achievements, like see them kind of face to face, the achievements of women.
I think it's because basically, as the old saying goes, you have to see it in order to be it. I mean, it's hard for girls and boys to imagine what can be in their futures if they're not seeing stories told. And for too long, even though women have contributed to history for millennia, basically, many of those stories haven't been told and commemorated. So I believe it's incredibly important for this country to have a women's history museum in our nation's capital, for us to be taught about the contributions of women, the victories, the losses, and all the ways in which the world that you and I walk through all the time was shaped by women.
Well, by educating the next generation of boys and girls, it builds respect for what women have done to help build our nation. And it's that very foundation of respect that will grow with the boys and girls will have more confidence, and boys will value who they are and what they've done and contributed.
Because women still don't have the kind of respect that everybody else gets. When I say everybody, I really mean the male of the species. We don't have the recognition, we don't have the respect as much as we should have, that we have earned. So having a museum is the perfect vehicle to say, look, America, look what we have.
Yeah, as a young person, I think being able to see women in a museum and see all of our accomplishment empowers you and makes you feel like you can also do that. So to not have it would be awful. I think having it should be what must happen, but we're striving for it.
We are here to celebrate women making history, the ones who have come before us and the ones who are moving mountains today and every day.
We get to create ripples of change by how we spend our time, our money,
and our energy. And we are gathered here today amongst like-minded changemakers so we can be inspired by each other's successes, not threatened. We gotta celebrate this, Anna!
There are so very many ways that Carrie has made history, but I think knowing her as I do, each triumph must be more important to her because of what it means for those to come. At every moment, in a humble, grounded, grateful way, she is aware of her place in history. She knows that the work that she does in every arena will make it easier for those who follow her. And that perspective of generosity is what exemplifies her point of view as a leader. She lifts people up. She is a professional lifter-upper. Either by direct action through her activism, by hilarity and catharsis through her acting, or by using her producerial voice to make sure everyone's history gets told, not just the stories of a privileged few.
Yeah, here I go, here I go. Hey, here I go, here I go. I bet on me and my own heartbeat when all the odds are piling like bricks.
I think sometimes we have been told a false narrative as women, often, that there is only room for one of us in the room. And it's part of how they keep us small, is by making us believe that you can't have that many women in the room who are strong and ambitious and smart. And part of the culture of Shondaland is to shatter that illusion. And I learned it on day one when I met Shonda, because I didn't even know that it lived in me. But I had never met Shonda Rhimes before, and I went to meet with her for the role in Scandal. And I got off the elevator, and there was a huge sign on the wall that said Shondaland. And I was like, this is not gonna work out. I was like, because I have my own land, and I don't know if I wanna live in your land. Like, I have a really great career, so I don't know. And I spent 5 minutes in a room with Shonda and realized that I would be so blessed to be in her land, and that there was room for all of me and my land in her land, because she's that kind of woman. And that culture has extended to all of the women working in that world. And I mean, it is not a surprise to me that my sister in Shondaland, the President of the United States, Mellie, would have the sight, or would just be so badass and give me the gift of that introduction, because we don't hold back for our sisters. Yeah. And I feel like that's what the museum is about, that we can't hold back from each other.
It's such a beautiful.
Through the launch of the My Story campaign, Marnie is helping show how women are using Instagram to share their lives, beliefs, and the diversity of the female experience. Marnie is giving a younger generation like mine a voice and a platform to be heard.
Women need to advocate for themselves. But that's not so easy for all women. So we as women who feel some confidence need to help the others along the way, and we have to do it now, every day that we have the opportunity. I also just want to say that you've done so much, and I know this has been a really busy week for you. Thank you. And I feel like we should just take a moment to celebrate you, and thank you, Marnie. Really, truly, you're getting a standing ovation here. Oh, thank you, Marnie. Thank you. That's lovely.
With her leadership and determination, which is obviously astronomical, Gwyn has laid the foundation for every little girl to dream as big as the galaxies. Gwyn inspires not only me, but every little girl and boy who wants to experience space travel and know they too can make the impossible possible.
I think it's really important to not focus on the things that detract from great work or the things that bring you down. I try to keep a very positive attitude. Frankly, I think some of the hardest moments in my career have been making sure that everyone in the company is leaning in and moving forward even after kind of great tragic events, which happens in rocketry, actually.
Yeah.